Hey guys, Steven here, Fanatic Perspective. Got some boxing talk today. Earl Spence Jr., Sean Porter, they delivered the goods last night. Unbelievable fight of the year. Earl Spence pulls it out, split decision, maybe somewhat controversial, but great fight nonetheless. Guys, I had Earl Spence winning dominantly coming into this fight. As many of you know, I'm a huge Earl Spence fan, and I thought he would outclass Sean Porter and ultimately wear him down. Guys, that was not the case tonight. And Sean Porter gave an A+ effort, A+ heart, an incredible performance and adjustments after the third round. Really midway through the third round and beginning of the fourth round, when Sean Porter, certain points of this fight completely took over and did a fantastic job of overwhelming Earl Spence like we've never seen before. And some of that was, in my opinion, some mistakes that Earl Spence made, but the other stuff was just Sean Porter's relentless competitiveness. Guys, when you train, and it's very clear to me how hard Sean Porter trains, and he has remarkable stamina and conditioning to continue the type of pace and the straightforwardness and everything that he comes with repeatedly, round after round, almost like certain charges that he has. And we've known this about Sean Porter coming in. He is a relatively predictable fighter, but one of the things he did was he got underneath and some of the stuff that he did with the slips on the ropes, getting underneath Earl Spence's jab early and not letting him go and working inside and landing some effective punches. Now, one of the things that Earl Spence was doing better earlier in the fight was he was countering stuff well, especially to the body, left hook to the body, and keeping things at bay, also utilizing his jab. Now, as the fight continued to wear on, I think Earl got a little frustrated and abandoned the jab. Seeing a guy come in that's clearly not intimidated by his power, clearly not intimidated by his skill set, and he's frustrated, right? And so he engages in a complete slugfest, a good one, entertaining one. I'm not complaining, but from the perspective of Earl Spence, he's got to fight a smarter fight when he watches this tape. He'll realize, I didn't fight the smartest fight for me. Now, Sean Porter, again, he deserves so much credit. And guys, I also believe Earl Spence, myself, and many other people in the boxing community, we have a lot of respect for Sean Porter. He was the WBC champion, and granted, with Earl Spence now taking that belt, he's now the IBF and WBC welterweight champion of the world. But I had a lot of respect for Sean Porter coming in, but I think we underestimated his ability against a high-level fighter like Earl Spence, just because we've seen him, lose to a Keith Thurman, lose to a Kell Brook. So where do we go from here? And I mean, honestly, before I even get to that, let's continue to go through the rest of the fight. I thought the judges' scorecards were a little off. And look, we got to get to that knockdown in the 11th round. Beautiful left hand by Earl Spence. Perfect on the button. Probably didn't generate all the power he wanted to, but anybody else probably in that division, I would say, outside of everybody else is going to the canvas, if not getting counted out on that shot. It's an unbelievable shot. One thing I've always known about Sean Porter, he has an incredible chin. And for him to only relatively stumble and take a knee and regain after that was impressive in itself. But it's also, we have to give that credit to Earl Spence. Unbelievable job of rallying as a champion. At that point in the fight, I thought he was down, guys. I thought Earl, I at least thought Earl had to win the 11th and the 12th round, with no doubt. Because I actually, on my scorecard, just looking back at it, I probably gave the 10th round to Sean Porter. So those championship rounds, I think the judges did give the 10th round to Earl Spence. When I go back and look at the cards, at least the judges who had Spence winning. But that 11th and the 12th round, he had to win those. And for him to get the knockdown in that spot was unbelievably clutch. And I'm so happy that Earl Spence got put into this situation because he was forced to dig deep. He was forced to look inside of himself for the first time. And for the first time, he wasn't the true serum. Sean Porter was. Sean Porter was the one bringing that out of him and making him dig all the way down. Because Errol Spence, let me tell you something, he was tired. And as well conditioned as he normally is, and I think he was very well conditioned for this fight, I don't question he's a professional. I don't question anything about him. I just think that he was not expecting the pace that he was going to fight Sean Porter with and how it would affect him. And so, and that happens sometimes in boxing. We always say all the time, styles make fights. So when you have a guy coming forward like that against a longer man, and the longer man abandons his jab, and he starts getting inside, and he starts getting rough, and landing the stuff inside, and now it becomes a slugfest, we're going to have a great fight on our hands, especially against two guys that are very, very active. Now, the other thing we have to factor in, because some people are saying, I'm seeing on social media and whatnot, well, I thought Sean Porter was way more aggressive. He should have won the fight. That isn't always necessarily the case when you're scoring these bouts. You also have to score effective punches. Now, Sean Porter did a great job, and I believe he did hurt Earl Spence at times, especially when Earl was tired, and you could see him breathing out his mouth a little bit. Earl also did some other uncharacteristic things. You see one in the beginning of the rounds, he's dancing a little bit. It's also to kind of psych himself up because he was tired and he was feeling it, right? And Sean Porter was too. Sean Porter was tired, but he has, he'll die in the ring mentality, right? So that's why this fight was so, so good. And for those of you who haven't watched it, figure out a way to watch this fight ASAP. Now, going back to the, just closing up my analysis here, that knockdown, though, really hurt Sean Porter, not just on the scorecards, but I think it hurt him enough to where he was not effective and did not have the juice in the 12th round. And that 12th round was when you saw Earl fight that 12th round with a lot of confidence, got his juice back, and wins the round decisively and closed. And that's a big part of boxing as well. Those championship rounds, how do you finish? How do you close? I personally had the fight. I think this fight would have been a draw. I think this fight would have been a draw. I would have had it 114, but the knockdown goes to 114-113 with the victor being Errol Spence. So I had this fight being very, very close. I don't like draws, but I'm also not going to cheat around to somebody just for the sake of avoiding a draw. Now, if you want to say this fight was 115-112 Errol Spence, I'm cool with that as well. But here's where it gets a little dicey, if you will. The judges' scorecards, 116-111 is ridiculous for Spence. I think 115-112 for Porter is also ridiculous. So I don't know how some of these judges scored. I haven't looked at everybody's card round by round, and I have to do a rewatch of this fight myself because it was that good, and it'll be a fun one to just break down and rewind and whatnot. But how they get to some of these numbers is beyond me. Also, Danny Garcia, get the hell out of the ring. This is grown folk business, all right? We don't have time for you to come in here. You've been eliminated from this discussion for the time being. Again, this is grown folk business. The only person that deserved to be in that ring last night, as far as I'm concerned, was Manny Pacquiao. If he wanted to come in there and call out Errol Spence, I'm cool with that. And moving forward, if Errol Spence wants to fight Manny Pacquiao, I'm cool with that. If he wants to rematch Sean Porter, which I think is a fight that should happen, and I think both would benefit from a rematch, absolutely. I don't know what the pay-per-view numbers are going to look like, but I'm pretty sure a pay-per-view rematch would draw big numbers, relatively big numbers for them. Now, if they want to go for the payday, they're going to have to fight Pacquiao. Spence, that is. Just is what it is. Now, I personally would like to see Errol fight Sean Porter again to leave no doubt. One of the great things I've seen in boxing is champions, when they fight a guy a second time, whether it's Leonard Duran or Ali Frazier, whether it was a loss or a closer fight than people thought, even a Mayweather versus Maidana, those guys normally in the second fight are very, very dominant. Look at Lennox Lewis after losses when he fought Hasim Rahman or the other brother that was Oliver McCall, right? So when they go into those rematches, they normally look very, very dominant. I want to see that from Errol Spence for his for legacy's sake. I don't want it to be one of those, he doesn't fight Sean Porter again. He goes and, obviously at some point down the road, there's going to be a Terrence Bud Crawford and others in the 147 before Errol Spence ultimately moves on outside of the division. But for his legacy, and when you have a guy like this who was a formidable opponent, I would like to see him fight again. Also, Sean Porter fought well enough to where he absolutely 100% deserves another chance to fight Errol Spence to get his belt back. Guys, we must remember this was a unification bout, and he was a champion as well. But what I do not want to see, and I think would be a huge mistake on the part of the PBC, Al Heyman, whoever you want to include in that, is the Danny Garcia thing. And Danny Garcia, you can look in his eyes when he gets up there in the ring. You can tell he wants none of the Spence smoke. It's just, whether his father put him up to it or whoever, they're at this point where they have to be desperate and try to grab some money. The guy's lost 2 out of his last 4 fights, and he's reaching. I mean, he lost to Sean Porter as well, and he had a good showing against him, but he lost, right? So, again, last time, this is grown folk business. So unless it's Manny Pacquiao or Sean Porter rematch, that's what we need to see from Errol Spence as far as I'm concerned. But guys, great fight. Can't wait to see it again. Please chime in, comment below what your thoughts were, and how you scored this bout, and who you had winning. So appreciate y'all. Have a great Sunday. I'm getting ready to watch some football. I'll be back later. Peace.